Two dead men lay in suits wearing homemade lead masks.
Tucked inside their pockets was a checklist containing instructions for a scheduled execution or a cosmic portal. To understand this scene, we must travel back to August 20th, 1966, to the steep, overgrown slopes of Vintim Hill in Niterói, Brazil. An 18-year-old boy was wandering the rugged terrain, searching for his lost kite. As he pushed past the thick, tropical brush, a heavy, sickly sweet odor hit him. He followed the smell to a small clearing. There, resting side by side on a bed of leaves, were two bodies. They were dressed in formal, high-quality suits and protected by matching yellow waterproof raincoats. But, what made the boy freeze in absolute terror was their faces. Over their eyes rested heavy, crudely fashioned lead masks, the kind used to shield eyes from blinding radiation. The boy fled down the hill, screaming for help. When the police arrived, they realized they were looking at a puzzle that defied every law of logic. The deceased were identified as Miguel José Viana and Manoel Pereira de Cruz. They were not outcasts, drifters, or cult members. They were highly respected, skilled electronic technicians from the distant town of Pt.2. They were husbands, fathers, and rational men of science who built radio transmitters and repaired television sets for a living. Yet, here they lay, dressed for a high society dinner in the middle of a muddy jungle, their eyes shielded by lead plates. There were no signs of a struggle. No blood, no bruises, no wounds. Their bodies showed no immediate physical trauma. Curiously, their hands were folded neatly over their chests. Next to them lay an empty bottle of mineral water, a small plastic cup, and a damp notebook. Inside the notebook was a message written in a neat, practiced hand. It read, 1630B at the specified location. 1830 swallow capsule. After the effect, protect metals, wait for the mask signal. This cryptic checklist instantly triggered a wave of paranoia across Brazil. What was the capsule? What was the mask signal? And why on earth did they need to protect metals? To find the answers, detectives began tracing the final footsteps of Miguel and Manoel. 3 days earlier, on August 17th, the two men left their hometown telling their wives they were traveling to Sao Paulo to purchase electronic components and a used car. They had a massive sum of cash on them, nearly 3 million cruzeiros, which would be worth thousands of dollars today. They boarded a bus, but they did not go to Sao Paulo. Instead, they traveled directly to Niterói. They arrived in Niterói in the middle of a torrential downpour. The rain was relentless, turning the dirt roads into thick mud. Despite the weather, witnesses spotted the two technicians. They went into a local shop and purchased 2 matching yellow raincoats. They also stopped at a bar to buy a single bottle of mineral water. The clerk at the bar would later tell investigators that Miguel seemed incredibly tense. He was sweating profusely, his eyes darting back and forth, and he kept checking his watch every few seconds. It was as if he was running out of time. After securing the water, they walked directly toward Vintim Hill. A local resident reported seeing them climb the steep incline in the pouring rain. They were walking purposefully, ascending into the dark, foggy forest as the sun began to set. They never came back down. As the investigation deepened, the mystery only grew darker. The massive sum of money they had carried from their hometown was completely gone. Only a tiny fraction of it was found in their pockets. Had they been robbed and forced to ingest poison? Or was the money used to pay for whatever secret they were trying to access on that hilltop? The police desperately needed the autopsy results to provide a cause of death. But, the coroner's office committed an unbelievable blunder. They threw away the only biological evidence that could solve the case. Due to an overcrowded morgue and intense tropical heat, the bodies were left to decompose for days before a proper toxicological screening could be conducted. When the autopsy was finally performed, the internal organs were too degraded to test for subtle poisons. The official cause of death was listed as undetermined. Without physical evidence, investigators turned to the bizarre lead masks themselves. The police found tools and scraps of lead sheet matching the masks inside the workshop of Miguel and Manoel's homes. They had made them themselves. Why? In 1966, Brazil was gripped by a massive wave of spiritualist movements that blended spiritualism with pseudoscience, often called scientific spiritualism. These groups believed that humans could communicate with extraterrestrial beings or parallel dimensions using specialized electronic equipment and altered states of consciousness. It was discovered that Miguel and Manoel were members of a highly secretive group of local spiritualists who experimented with radio frequencies and psychedelic substances. They believed they could receive messages from the cosmos. Then came a shocking revelation. A few years prior, in 1962, another technician named Hermes Luis Feitosa had been found dead on a nearby hill, Cruz's Hill. He was found in almost identical circumstances, lying on his back, wearing a suit, with a homemade metal mask over his eyes. Feitosa had also been conducting spiritualist experiments involving high-frequency radio transmitters. It became clear that Miguel and Manoel were trying to replicate Feitosa's experiment, believing they had corrected his fatal mistakes. One theory suggests they were lured to the hill by a spiritualist guru who promised them a cosmic encounter. They were told to take a capsule, possibly a lethal dose of cyanide disguised as a spiritual conduit, to elevate their minds. The lead masks were meant to protect their eyes from the blinding, radioactive light of the alien spacecraft or spiritual entity they expected to descend upon them. The instruction to protect metals may have been a warning to shield their electronic gear, or a belief that metal objects would interfere with the cosmic energy. Another suspect emerged, their close friend, Elcio Gomez. He was a fellow spiritualist who had participated in previous high-frequency experiments with the duo.
Gomez was arrested under suspicion of murder, as police believed he may have poisoned them to steal their massive sum of money.
Gomez vehemently denied the charges, claiming that the two men had simply gone to the hill to contact spirits and that he had nothing to do with their deaths. Lacking any physical evidence or toxicological proof of poison, the police had no choice but to release him. The case officially went cold, leaving behind a haunting portrait of two men lying in the mud, waiting in total darkness for a signal that would never arrive. They put on the masks, swallowed the pills, and waited. As the poison systematically shut down their vital organs, they likely believed the numbness was simply the first stage of cosmic ascension. They died believing they were about to step into another world, completely unaware that they were actually dying in a wet, dark forest, abandoned by whatever entity they sought. If this bizarre case of cosmic obsession and mysterious deaths fascinated you, you must watch our video on the terrifying mystery of the Dyatlov Pass expedition next. Be honest in the comments, do you think Miguel and Manoel were victims of a brilliant, ruthless thief who used their spiritual delusions to murder them, or did they truly believe they were about to step through a portal to another world? Because, on that rainy hilltop, the line between science and madness dissolved completely, leaving behind only the chilling image we started with.